failed, I manually transmit as follows. That I don't think we want to do much about this because the chairman is new on the job. He has to, whatever has been done here, he of course has to bear responsibility for continuity. I guess that is a little constraint which we don't need to overburden. But I was just wondering, sir, going forward, because you promised reforms. You have all the money you need, nobody has. Democracy is not cheap, but we must spend all our resources for democracy. Because after you have been elected, what do you do for the people? I do not think, with profound respect, that INEC need hospital. Private hospital, INEC hospital too in Abuja. You have offices in the 36 states. You mean if INEC officer in Benin is sick, he has to come to Abuja for treatment? Why do you have to have your INEC hospital? Do you have INEC special disease? I don't think so. Because these are areas we can avoid so that you focus on your core mandate. Your core mandate is not medicine. It's not healthcare. That's the mandate of the Ministry of Health. And if INEC people in Abuja needs quality healthcare and you are not getting it, we talk to the Minister of Health. But honestly, sir, INEC has to be restricted to its core mandate, namely to conduct free, fair, credible election, not to be running hospitals. You don't have that competence. If INEC man has a post-rate problem, you are going to have you have a lot of men who are in their 60s and 50s. Are you going to create a urologist? If you have if INEC child has a problem, you are going to have a pediatric doctor. I think these are things, this is God displacement. With due respect, under your leadership, let INEC return to its core mandate and not go into the issues of healthcare facility, running to hospitals. The man sitting next to me is from Akwa Ibom. He's going to travel from Uyo to Abuja. If INEC president has this, even those in Lagos, you are going to fly from Lagos to Abuja for treatment. Abba. Prof, these are the avoidable ways which you can deal with. I'm talking of general term now. You didn't start it, but if your predecessor started it, you can terminate it and rechannel the resources to where you need them most. Thank you, sir. The motion in total that, as you said,
so I didn't want to start, when we will start arguing with comrade, we will end up here. Otherwise, even in the National Assembly, our core mandate is making laws. But we have a clinic here. You must have a clinic because you don't need, because the clinic is for the personnel staff around the air. It doesn't stop you. When you have prostate, you run to Federal Medical Center or National Institute. So, thank you very much, comrade, for your observation. It has now been moved and seconded that this document be adopted as a working document. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it. So move 2026 now.
Appreciate the guidance from the committee and to also thank you. Some of the points made have been noted. So we now go to the 2026 proposed statutory budget, and we have it already circulated. Distinguished Chairman, the approved 2025 envelope appropriation is the sum of 140 billion naira. The actual amount proposed by INEC was 171 billion 902 685 763.32, and we have the breakdown of the budget into personnel costs. Personnel costs from the envelope remain at 85 billion 482 443 099.43, as against the proposed of 109 073 298 988.03, and you can see the code name is 21. Therefore, from code 2101 up to 210101. They are the breakdown of what constitutes the personnel cost. Talking of the consolidated salary, talking of the electoral hazard and other allowances, talking of the NHIS, contributory pension, group life insurance, employees compensation scheme, ITF contribution, and non-pensionable salary. That accounted for the amount that is appropriated and proposed under personnel costs. Distinguished chairman and members of the committee, if you go to page 2, we have the overhead. And the overhead is the sum approved is 9,046,701,172.38, but the actual proposed was 18,742,756,055.66. You have the breakdown from the greens and white 2201, and that takes you to page 6.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I think you are taking the 2025 budget as your proposal against the approved.
Okay, thank you, sir, for the post for 2026 on overhead. Or do I start again? Thank you for the hint. The overhead cost is 18,742,756,055.66 as against what we had in 2025. And then we have the breakdown running up to 220101 up to page 6, where you have 221023. We gave the breakdown in terms of local travels, utilities, materials and supplies, maintenance, so general services, training, other general services, consultancy and professional services, fuel and lubricants, financial charges generally, and then miscellaneous. Those were the various breakdowns that have been given. And distinguished chair, sir, that takes us to the electoral expenditure for 2026. And we are proposing the sum of 42,630,296,718.63 as against the sum of 32,699,705,206.18 for 2025. And this has to do with the conduct of elections. That is from the breakdown, code number 2301 up to page 10, where you have code number 230815. The breakdown in respect of conduct of elections and polls. The details are given to the right. Voters registration expenses, the CVR that is ongoing, monitoring of political party finances, Congress, convention, and campaigns. Actually, this is supposed to be, okay, yes, conventions and congresses. Then you have electoral disputes and litigation, voters education, electoral publicity and advert, delineation and delineation of electoral constituencies, electoral administration, and electoral capital. The next one is electoral capital expenditure, which is on page 10. Then the final aspect of the budget is the capital expenditure, which is code number 32 on page 10. And here we have the breakdown from 3201 up to 320302 on page 11. And so the breakdown as follows: acquisition of fixed assets general. We have renovation and rehabilitation of fixed assets, as well as, okay, that is all, because there is no appropriation for even renovation and rehabilitation under the budget. So, distinguished chairman, this is just a summary of the budget, proposed budget for 2026 from INEC. We thank you for this opportunity.
Looking at the 2025 approved appropriation, I know this particular document. In the 2026, I'm looking at the capital expenditure line item. What was approved for 2025 was, that's the capital expenditure on page 10, is 12.7 billion. But what is being proposed in 2026 is 1.4 billion. That's a very large variance. Is there any particular reason why your capex has dropped by over 80% or thereabouts?
Because most of the capital expenditure
in the election budget.
The election budget.
Okay, that is understood. That's understood. Thank you very much.
I would like to be a disturbance to the progress of INEC. I would also not like politicians or political officers to be a victim. Having said that, I would like to invite the whole House to page 9 of 2026 INEC proposed statutory budget, page 8. Page 8. Yeah. The last line. 630 million naira proposed for annual medical checkup for public political office holders.
Page 8, the last 230711.
Page 8, medical checkup for political office holders. Please, can you please remove that?
No, it's not the issue of removing. Explain.
Political office holders. So who are those political office holders?
May I respond, Sir Chair?
It didn't say political, it said public officer.
Yes, sir. May I respond, sir?
My one is public officer.
May I respond?
Okay, Chairman. Chairman,
The template you have here is as provided by the Federal Ministry of Finance for every ministry and parastatals.
Okay.
And under the public officer, the public political office holders order or whatever, remuneration, this is how it is provided. So we are talking of the chairman, the national commissioners, and the recs that are provided for. But if you change anything based on the template already provided by finance, it becomes a problem. And I was just saying that sometimes you may not even have releases just because of something as technical as that. So this template was as given to everybody, sir.
Okay, Abiru.
Main constitutional requirements and obligations on our part. We are here this morning to defend our budget proposal 2026 and also the 2027 general election proposal, budget proposal, as well as the 2025 budget releases and performance. Distinguished chairs, before we proceed further to the defense of our proposed budget and EPP, may I just go straight into the appraisal of the performance and implementation of the 2025 statutory transfers to the Commission. With your permission, may I go ahead? Thank you very much, sir. We have already circulated the 2025 budget releases and performances as at 31st January was the sum of 140 million, out of which only 120 billion had been released, and out of the 120 billion that have been released, the expenses so far are 114 billion, 403 million, and 66,857.33. The available balance still remains 5,780,621,709.55. So far from the performance and releases, we have a total budget performance of 81.72%, and we still have left with 18.28% unimplemented. Mr. Chairman, sir, and co-chair, distinguished senators and honorable members, just to report that the lifespan of the 2025 budget is still ongoing and it's expiring at the end of March. But one major challenge we've had is the discrepancies between the appropriation of this National Assembly and what is at the Cash Management Office. So that accounted why only the sum of 120 million was released. So we have the details of the budget performance and the expenses as both description numbers 22. The details of the performance in terms of code number 21 on page 1, code number 22 on page, still on page 1.
Chairman,
yes,
just like I mentioned earlier, I think the information that we have, giving performance information should be more detailed. You see, going with this envelope system, what is doing your defense, I mean the budget performance that the real job is, what have you really done, how was money spent, so a lot of information that we need. This is just like we are presenting a budget to us, but this is supposed to be a performance presentation, so this cannot suffice for this activity. Let's please ascertain that we can continue with the 2026 and the 2027.
There are just few questions I will open up, and then members will ask you some further questions. So, first, like we said, in 2025, the Commission got a total appropriation of 140 billion, which you already said. And in 2026, 20 billion naira, and in 2026, there is an increase in the statutory transfer to the Commission in the sum of 171 billion naira, representing an increase of about 31 billion naira. The question is, what is the justification for this increase? Or there is something new or project that warrants this increase?
And co-chair, I think for me, I think it's important that we first start with what I can describe as the base year, which is the 2025, and of which we can now ride on. And I think that what is very instructive about 2025 is to look at the performance. And based on the records here, I think that this budget has reasonably performed based on what they have stated here. You understand? Because if you look at the first page of the 2025, you will see the column for the approved amount, the releases, the expenses, and the percentage of performance. So, and if you look at that, you have an average performance of not less than 90% along all of the lines. So you see, if that is true, and I'm hoping that that is true, then that can now form the basis with which we're going to look at the 2026 budget. That will be my own submission at this point. Thank you.
The approved budget. Unfortunately, we don't have the 2025 budget in this document for us to refer to confirm that this is the exact amount provided for by the National Assembly. That's one. Two, if you go to the releases, 191,200,000 was released. So is it
information about the budget performance, so to speak. However, detailed interrogation and value for money or whatever can be done later by the committee through oversight and what have you. If you say the recurrent is like 90-something% or 80-something% performance, and you look at the capital, it's less than 40%. But all of that should not bog us down today. But however, it must go through them or whatever it is worth.
These are the presentations.
Okay.
So these details are when you go on oversight.
Okay.
At this stage, if we start doing oversight before we go on oversight, it means we are going to take the whole day. We have opportunity immediately after this presentation to go to oversight. That is where we'll do the actual auditing. We'll see it, we'll confirm. I hope you understand with me. Thank you very much.
If we start looking at it from the pages I've seen, there are a lot of adjustments they need to do, and I think it's like maybe mistake and oversight. And I will urge that will allow them to rearrange put their documents in order for us to move. Like I'll give an example, Excellency, sir, Mr. Chairman. In page 7, page 6, there's a particular portion that repeated this line item. Page 6, code 2303. 2304 is the same money appropriated, 298, 039250, releases were 155, the same thing. I'm coming. The two are the same. Let me make a point. I want to make my point. And you said performance, and the first one is 8.71%, and the last one is 51.3%. It's the both. It's the same. They are variance. So I want to believe it's a mistake. So you need to readjust it. So look at it. It's both.
So the color green is the heading. And then the main activity is what you have in the white column. So it's just saying one and the same thing. And that is why the 2303, there is nothing on percentage. The percentage of 8.71 that is being referred to is under the heading of voters registration expenses. So that is the answer to that, sir. Then maybe adverting to the other issue raised by the item numbers 230307, drugs and medical supplies. I want to say that INEC has 2 clinics, and so the drugs and medical supplies relate to the drugs that are bought for those clinics. The clinics, one is in Aten, the other one is in Kubwa. INEC. So they exist within the Federal Capital Territory, sir. Then in relation to uniform and other, the uniform and other clothing relates to security personnel of INEC who are employed. And lawyers by wardrobe allowance. the explanations. Yes, sir. In-house. Lawyers.
Okay. So you can see what we are saying. So for me, I think it is necessary to adopt this document as a working document so that we can move to 2026. Okay.
Just like we said earlier, since we have seen the figures in area of performance as at least the nominal one, that we can actually move to the next 2026 and 2024 election budget. But I want to note before we 2027 election budget, and but what I want to note here is one of the reasons why your budget was increased during the presentation in 2025 was because we mentioned area of some of the offices you are moving from your from local government secretariat and the rest. So in concluding this other part of, you said you've not had 100% yet and it's still going to extend till March. I hope all those areas of those offices will actually be taken care of, because we mentioned this even on the floor of the House, that there was need for INEC fund to be increased, because to improve transparency, all INEC offices must be moved from local government secretariat, and people will be expecting it to happen because it's part of the budget of 2025. So by the time you are coming from the oversight, we'll be expecting to see how many of such offices have been built, so which is very key. Thank you. So
I think my own are you with me here? I think my own issue here is, how do you reconcile the envelope budget, right? Because you have two budgets for 2026 here and your own proposed. And what I can see there is that you have proposed for 2026 about 172 billion naira, right? While the envelope that has been provided is 140. And I can see that from your own budget and that of the envelope, I think adequate provisions have been made for all of your staff-related costs. That's all of the overheads and the recurring. However, where I think the moderation on the side of the envelope is coming from will appear to me to be in the conduct of by-elections and all of that. Are you with me? So I'd like you to go to your page 6 of the envelope system, because, and I'm page, what's the page on this one now? So that's from 2301. Now, so if you look at the page 6 on the envelope system and page 6 on your own proposal, you will notice that in making provisions for the conduct of the by-election in 2026, your proposal is about 14 billion, while they have moderated you to 5.5 billion. You can see that, right? Now, if you also go to your page 7, you can see that electoral administration again moderated to 8.5 billion from 13 billion that you have proposed. Now, so those are the key areas where I think some of those moderation are coming from. So the question then is, how are you going to reconcile this? If you understand what I'm saying, which is to say that those who have given you the envelope, have you sat down with them to convince them as to the importance of these sensitive areas? Do you get what I'm saying? So as to know in the final analysis, what do we support or what do we approve for you? And I think, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues and honorable members, this is very important, because, you know, we have a lot of by-elections that are meant to be taking place, and of course, they will know better as to the kind of arrangement they should be making. But again, in terms of the costing and also the provisioning, they are, another department of government or agency of government has moderated their expectations there. So they need to convince us, and so that we know exactly what we are being confronted with. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my distinguished colleagues. Thank you.
I think for INEC, I do not think it would be right for people outside INEC, including the Ministry of Finance, to extend the principle of envelope system to INEC. Because in the recent amendment we made, INEC was charged to ensure that all the electronic gadgets like beavers or any other electronic devices that they are functioning. I will expect that they might want to procure more. Somebody asked how INEC cannot limit it. I think, like you said in an earlier comment, we can ensure that through oversight, that whatever INEC believe they need, that they actually need it, and they will need it to ensure that the next election, there are no technical or logistic challenges. I take into account, Mr. Chairman, sir, that we have had two very dangerous situations under the previous two INEC chairmen, where elections had to be postponed because for some reasons materials are not delivered on time, they are printed abroad, then they arrive at the airport, they don't have the capacity to take them to, and in the end, this created a national embarrassment. For me, we can't eat our cake and have it. In your opening remark, you said, we want democracy, it's not cheap. Even though I recognize that it's democracy to free resources also to work. But I don't want us to reduce anything INEC has asked for in return. As President Tinubu has had to tell some service chiefs, in return, Nigerians will not tolerate excuses. And the Minister of Finance have to be advised, he not being an elective person, to be sensitive to what the electoral body needs so it doesn't delay releases, because a lot of the items, I assume, are made on order. You can't go to my village and say, I want to buy beavers. We don't sell. Or I want to change beavers to another more efficient device. It's not in the shelf. So all of this take into account. My plea, sir, is that the envelope system should be set aside and allow what I believe they need to prevail so that in return, they will have no excuse to Nigerians. I so submit, sir. We prefer.
There are some areas that we've also spoken about during the ongoing registration when I asked why we cannot have at least 1 unit of registration per ward. And your technical people told me they don't have enough scanner to go around all the wards of the country. And I asked, if out of all the money we are putting into INEC, the procurement of scanner shouldn't have been a reason why we are not reaching out to people on time. And we discussed that that should also be included. That means we must make provision to ensure that, okay, take your stock. How many do you have? How many do we need more to get at least 1 unit per ward, which is very important. We cannot be telling people to go and vote, to go and register, and we are not ready for them within the units that we expect them to go to the local government, your local government office, which is very difficult for some people. So going to this continuous register now, we must ensure that at least every ward has a unit. And if the scanner or any other equipment is what is, excluding from doing that, it must be included in this year's budget. Secondly, the allowance of corps members, because they just sent us a letter from NYSC after our meeting with them. During the public hearing that we had, the representative came and the man told us that it seems you are leaving out the most important aspect of this electionary system. You are talking about the appointment of INEC chairman, and the corps members that take all these decisions on the election day are being given stipends that cannot be even enough for them to transport themselves. And they said we are going to come up with a proposal to us. And from what they have now, from what they used to get, I think they said just about 17,000 naira per corps member. But from the proposal they brought now, I think we have to look at this proposal and adopt it so that you can make it a working document in your proposal. Because the INEC, the ad hoc officers, those ad hoc staff, the presiding officers, are the one that will transmit if you want it to be transmitted. They are the one that will write the result. They are the one that can change it. And if we don't take care of them and you let politicians to influence them, then no matter what we do, no matter who we appoint as the INEC chairman, once the jobs have been destroyed from the base, then it will just, and you have to accept responsibility as the head of the commission. So I think we should also look at that too. And 2026, probably one of the areas they mixed out is 2026 elections are there. So when you're moving some capital into 2027 general election, we still have by-election and off-cycle election in 2026. So if you are removing, if they remove this money in the election activities in 2026, hoping that 2027 will take care of it, that means we are not preparing ourselves for the Ekiti and Osun election that will be in 2026. So we must readdress those areas, those money that were removed, and make a presentation back to the Minister of Finance. Thank you.
2026 proposal. So I also want to move as a motion that the Joint Committee do accept this 2026 proposal as a working document to allow the committee commence their work, so that when chairman responds to the question raised earlier, then we can accept.
Distinguished chairman and members of the committee, I want that the comment of distinguished Senator Abiru had been partially addressed by the comment of distinguished Senator Shomole. To be honest, the envelope system is not good for the running of INEC, if INEC must be truly independent. And sometimes, as a commission, we sit down to look at the cost of conducting an election in Nigeria, vis-a-vis what the public perception is. Now, if truly we want to do the needful, apart from just what we paid for those equipment we use, you'll be surprised that when you get to the EPP, substantial portion of the EPP is taken by payment of honorarium. And this money, the Honorable Chair, the co-chair was drawing my attention to a letter by the NYSC requesting for additional appropriation of about 32 billion if they must perform their duties creditably and with integrity. We can truly not close our eyes to such demands. But however, as we said, we cannot get everything that we require. So as much as possible, it's not as if these figures are just coming from somebody. These figures were properly interrogated at various stages, at various levels, to ensure that at least we have what we can call the reducible minimum. So the envelope system, I have to say with respect, is not really helping us. For instance, we don't even have a network of our own. We're talking of a full-scale setting up of the network system now. Assuming we control the network, not dictated to us by primary, secondary providers, then INEC should be held responsible 100% for whatever happens. But by the time you are going to look at the bill, it's something that will be so large, and so many other considerations. Even talking of this continual voters registration that we're in this second, we are doing it local government, and then we move to the wards, to the ward level. It's not just the scanner. By the time we are going to deploy in all the registration areas, the cost of payment of ad hoc staff is a lot of money. And you are going to do that all over Nigeria. So that is why it becomes practically impossible for you to deploy at all registration areas at the same time. But as far as possible, we're trying to do the needful on that. So therefore, we will urge the committee to look at our proposal, because appropriation actually belongs to the National Assembly. And when I listened to whether we negotiated, discussed with the Federal Ministry of Finance over the envelope, they don't even give you room for negotiation. What happened is that we are just given an envelope to operate with. So it is not left for you to go and sit down and adjust and cut some aspect off. But even looking at the implication of reduction of the proposed vis-a-vis the envelope, we discovered that some critical areas were left out. So, and when we come to Parliament, to the National Assembly, our prayer, for instance, is that when we talk of even by-election, we pray that it does not happen. Because by-election comes, like we are going to do by-election in Kano now, on Saturday, next week Saturday, Kano Municipal and Ngongo State Constituency. Why are we doing the by-election? Because the members died. So we don't pray. That is one prayer. We are always praying for the National Assembly, for members of the state houses of assembly, that we don't actually have any reason for anybody to die, for us to begin to talk of a by-election. But at the same time, you must provide for it. Because if you don't provide for it and it happens, then you run into very serious problem. And Nigerians are not ready to take excuses that you are not able. In fact, even the senators, 2 senators that died, I know the pressure I face every time. That, oh, Enugu, this South is vacant. Why have you not conducted the election? And that's Akwanga, I mean, the national one. The same thing every day. But number one, the seat must be declared vacant before you go into a by-election. So those are some of the constraints. But we have to provide. But if we provide and it is reduced, it's going to be a big risk for us to just remove it from our appropriation. So we appeal to the Joint Committee, whatever the Joint Committee can do to ensure that we have what we propose. And not only that, what the committee can do, like that is oversight. If we are doing this, the committee can oversight us to see whether that is provided. Thank you very much.
Comply with like the necessary production of, procurement of all the additional equipment you need, scanners and all the rest. Adopting the proposal of NYSC in the issue of the allowance, and which other one? Because these are part of the basis with which we are going to ensure that we make requests. Because if we say that INEC, the cost of allowance is going to go up by so percentage, after you calculate, you give us what the new amount is going to be. After your calculation, you give us what the new amount is going to be. And all the amount that the difference, the purchase of scanners and all that too is going to be. Those are the areas with which we'll be able to make justification for whatever increase that we might need to replace back in what was removed, because it is very important that we justify whatever request you are bringing. So what are they going to fall under in the area of personnel, the ad hoc staff, the area of procurement of additional equipments? We want them itemized in such a way that we can make the request very easy.
Reason why they fall in that category. If you look closely at everything that had to do with this budget, it even got to a stage where INEC had to start redistributing what was released. So I want to move a motion here, sir, that knowing fully well that it was for a good reason that INEC falls into this category of first line charge, I want to move a motion for a full implementation of the first line charge for everything going to INEC to be implemented. I so move, Mr. Chair. Second.
Mr. Chairman and members of the Joint Committee, we also know that 2027, on the final outcome of the reform, by 2020. And so, by 2027, and the preparation for that election has already started. Because if you want great want to predict the future, it is necessary to create it early on time. So that is the reason why, in the wisdom of the National Assembly, it was decided years back that the appropriation for the general election should be made 360 days before the date fixed for the election. So we have before the National Assembly, therefore, the 2027 proposed INEC election budget, which is for the general election, pursuant to Section 3, subsection 3 of the Electoral Act 2022. And the budget from the summary page is divided into 4 main heads. We have the election operations cost, which is 375 billion 748 195 271.47. We also have election administrative costs, which is 92 billion 311 591 396.58. We have election technology costs, which is 209 billion 205 589 977.70. And finally, we have the election capital costs, which is the sum of 154 billion 904 529 641.94. The total proposed budget for the general election is the sum of 832 billion 169 906 287.67, with a miscellaneous expense of 41 billion 608 495 314.39. And now the grand total is 873 billion 778 401 602.08. Mr. Chairman, sir, distinguished members of the committee, you will notice that in the last budget we talked about a very low capital expenditure. So most of the capital items are captured in this general election budget. We have the details, sir, supplied as indicated on the right column, where you have the first one, election operations, is codes 230101 up to 230601. Election administrative cost is code 230703 to 230812. And for election technology cost, we have codes 230707 up to 230811. For election capital cost, we have codes 320198 up to code 320201. And then the miscellaneous is contained in code 230725. The details are contained on pages 1 to 5. And we have given the specific codes. You can see that the blue actually capture the various heads, the 4 major heads that we have explained. And then what follows next are just the explanation. And we have also given the detailed descriptions of what those amounts will be used for in terms of the activities for the election. So may I therefore humbly present the 2027 election budget to the National Assembly. We are most grateful, sir.
To rewrite another budget proposal to us. They've submitted a proposal. We will look inward and see what we think
is adequate enough for them, and that is why we are the National Assembly. And then we'll do justice to it, because if we know they have come below what we think will assist them, then it's our duty to advise and adjust to make them. And I remember even when we were in the retreat in the Hilton, I was the one who proposed then that we must look inward to see how to take care of the youth corpers, because they are the weakest link that can be used to compromise the whole of your exercise. And I thank God they've written officially now. So I think it's our duty now to look inward and see how we can either upgrade it upward to be able to cover some of these things that you've raised now. It's not for them to.
But maybe what we'll even say clearly now is the request they have made is now 127,000 naira per copper for the 5 days. For the 5 days, both training, the 5 days training and the 2 days election period. So that's what they're asking for. 50,000 naira for the election duty, 5,000 naira for feeding, 4,500 for feeding, 5,000 naira for training allowance. So these are all everything accumulating to 127,000, and they are proposing 450,000 COP members, giving us about 32 billion naira. Huh? No, 450. 450 is the number. So, that, yes, it's 450 they are basing the budget on. So,
following what we're doing too, so that you look at them and see whether this budget, because there's an increase now, so will it be adequate? So that if we are making a proposal, we make a proposal, adequate proposal. Okay.
Okay, sir. Budget. Actually, we had improved a little bit from what we were paying, because we anticipated, but not what they are asking for. Yes, sir. But we probably will still have to interrogate it very clearly, because we are all talking of a credible election, and it starts from the grassroots, and the pyramids of election are the polling units, and the masters of the polling unit are the presiding officers. So it's an issue that when we got, the letter was not actually addressed to us. It was addressed to the chair of the House Committee, and he graciously made a copy available to us. But that was after the whole act was over. So we are still going to look at it very critically.
Senator representing Cross River South. I once again want to commend this for, first of all, the motion asking that the statutory allocations be made a first-line charge. This National Assembly is a citadel of democracy, and it's always the first to fall if democracy has an issue. And so any resources required for INEC to execute any election must be done adequately and in full. But I have one or two comments regarding the 2027 proposed election budget. If you move to page 4, please, sir. INEC has 176,846 polling units. But I see that on the line item for ballot boxes, you are providing for about 130,000 units. I don't know if that's the case of you are reusing some of the old ballot boxes, or they're about page 4. No, let me just finish the questions and then you answer. On page 4, so with 176,846 units, I see that you are providing an average of 130,000 ballot boxes. Also, on the last line item, voting cubicles and booths, you are providing for a fresh new design, or so to speak. Maybe you can enlighten us as to what was wrong with the previous design and why there is a new design for voting booths. You mentioned something about secrecy, but we've all voted here. We know that those booths are well covered. So maybe there's a particular issue you want to identify. And finally, my last question on the line item, on page 5, security. I see provision of walkie-talkie communication gadgets. The truth is, this is extremely essential, and I don't think that that is enough to cover. I don't know if this equipment are meant just for the security. The truth is, half of Nigeria, if not more than Nigeria, are rural areas with sometimes weak communication infrastructure. On election day, you find presiding officers and polling units struggling to get network to call to report one issue or another. I don't know whether we haven't reached the stage where all presiding officers at each of the PUs are giving long-range walkie-talkies so that they can be in communication with either the ward, the head at the ward level or at the local government level. This is something that is essential and should be looked into. Long-range walkie-talkies so that we do not have to rely on our mobile phones. The presiding officers, at least one of the PUs, should have a walkie-talkie for communication with the local government headquarters. Thank you very much. Those are my comments, and actually there are questions, the three of them. The question on the walkie-talkie, the question on the voting booth, and on the ballot boxes. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And the members of the committee, I want to appreciate what the distinguished senator said about the ballot boxes. We have taken an audit of the available ballot boxes across the nation. So we didn't just want to condemn everyone. Those that are still usable, we have factored them in. So we are just having additional. That is why it is only about 130,000 as against the 176,000. Then the other issue has to do with voting cubicles and votes. One of the major concerns, even during the last Anambra election, INEC did everything possible to ensure that the election was credible. And we went the extra mile. However, we cannot have a perfect election. Nonetheless, from all the reports, including the EU reports and the report from the UK, we were given very high commendations. But the but in their report has to do with the issue of vote buying. And when we had stakeholders engagement, the essence of the stakeholder engagement is also to have something to take away from them. And the suggestions they made as to one of the measures to curb vote buying, apart from prosecution, is that the cubicles we are using now is just too small. So expand it in such a way that the ballot boxes will also be able to accommodate it, so that you don't need to vote and come out and drop your ballot. So that if we have a cubicle that will allow you to do your voting and put it here and there immediately, a situation where somebody will vote and come out and show it to everybody as a confirmation will no longer arise. So it was for that reason that we also put our heads together to say that you vote and then you drop your ballots. Thank you, sir.
Chairman, please.
Of communications. So it's just limited to some channels that we feel they are very important. And secondly, we also have
Okay. And we are already telling the students, the expo, the cubicle thing they're asking for, they asked for, I don't think there's need for them to expose it in the open, in the media. That's one observation I have. Secondly, the issue of communication, how they communicate, is into them. If we want to know more, maybe I will request, after we finish the whole thing, we'll go into a section and ask some of these questions. Because he's talking about the report of EU, whatever. How we conduct our election is not to be open to the whole world. That's just my suggestion, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
I agree with you. It is quoted on.
And INEC chairman and his team, who are doing a great job, and who we know will do better. Henry Siraki Dixon, Bayelsa West. and I'm a member of this committee. Mr. Chairman, I requested your special protection and indulgence just to ask a question. One of the benefits of coming late, and I'm sorry, I was sharing another committee, is that sometimes you say things that others have said. If it turns out to be so, then observe and overrule me. But I think it's important that we seated here and Nigerians hear his response. Mr. Chairman and your team, the proposal you have made, does it take account of your infrastructure, your capacity, the support that you need to be able to give effect to the amended electoral law which now prescribes electronic transmission? Do you have that covered, the infrastructure to enable you communicate and transmit from all polling stations? Because you will need money for that. That's to be funded. Is it already covered, Mr. Chairman? It's so important that people we get a response from. Thank you.
Okay. Was put in here. And we all agree that on this issue, it is not him that will tell us. We will look at it. He has made a proposal. By the time we look into it and we pass the law, we will put in anything and also at what will be adequate for him to conduct the election. So are you comfortable now? Thank you very much. So, introduction.
Mr. Chairman, I do say, our invited guests, you are welcome.
I have a question to the Honorable Chairman of INEC. My issue is about restoration of Nyamatu State Constituency. Briefly, I want to say 79 to 93, Nyamatu constituency existed. Nyamatu constituency existed by 1999. INEC did not retain Nyamatu State Constituency, but it is clearly in section 91, of 1999 Constitution that has amended that states assemblies should consist of 3 or 4 times the number of seats which that state has in the House of Representatives. In this issue, Benue State has 11, but we still have only 32 members in the State House of Assembly. Secondly, it is said that each we have in the state constitution instead of 2. So we have been shortchanged on this for quite a long time. We have been writing and pleading with INEC. And then now we have 32. But the constitution says at least we should have 33 up to 34 because we are 11 members in the House of Representatives. On this issue, sir, I move a motion on the 12th of March, and there was vote of proceedings of this on the 13th from the House directing INEC that they should restore Nyamatu Federal Constituency. Nyamatu State Constituency, sorry. But we have been writing, I believe my chairman has written to INEC too, but nothing has been done. I would like the...
Unfortunately, this is not where to address this issue. We are doing budget. We sympathize with you. And we have noted your complaint. We will handle it later. I don't think it's for INEC to... We are doing budget now. So thank you very much for your comment. And we take seriously this kind of comment, especially from this committee. We will discuss with you later. At this stage, do we have any person who has not introduced himself? If not, I have done that. The chairman, oh, sorry, I didn't introduce myself. You know me? Then come to the end of the entire business. But before we close, we'll also, I will invite my co-chair to make the closing remarks for the sitting today. I must thank you on my own, but let him do the vote of thanks and the closing remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman, co-vice chairman, and senators, honorable members, INEC chairman and his team. Well, it's been a wonderful to INEC to do possible. We have an each-free election. Despite all the issues that we're having on ground, I'm sure many Nigerians know that INEC today is quite different from the INEC of yes. Although there are a lot of distractions, but we will not be distracted. We will continue to give you all the support where necessary, legislatively and even in the area of your budget. And we'll expect to get reciprocal cooperation from your end too, because Nigerians are looking at you. INEC is the main institution now, between now and next year, and it's going to be getting tougher. And you should be ready for various terrible and tight interviews. And you should try not to drop the ball in any of these interviews, because they might hold you to responsible for some of the things you say. The last one, INEC was responsible for over-promising, for saying, making IREF look like a portal where you can start viewing the result on the screen like CNN. And at the end of the day, they said it was INEC that promised. It was not in the Electoral Act that, even IREF was not even the last Electoral Act. It was a creation of INEC. But we should be careful in trying to impress them at the end of the day, having a black crash. But we'll do our best to give you all the necessary support, and we'll be with you in this advocacy, good electionary process. So I want to use this opportunity to thank everybody for being here today, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
For those of us that are in the harmonization, that is the harmonization committee, we are meeting on Monday, definite meeting on Monday. Motion for adjournment. Motion for adjournment, please.